There are some stories about success that sound almost too perfect to be true. Then there's the story of Jay-Z. Before the billion-dollar deals, the private jets, the awards, and the global empire, there was just a kid from Brooklyn named Shawn Carter, growing up in a neighborhood where dreams could disappear quickly. Jay-Z wasn't born into wealth. He didn't have a famous last name. He didn't have a record deal waiting for him. What he had was a voice, a sharp mind, and a determination that refused to die. Shawn Carter was born on December 4, 1969, in Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in the Marcy Projects, a place where life could be tough and opportunities were limited. His mother, Gloria, worked hard to raise her children, and Jay-Z learned early that if he wanted something different from the life around him, he would have to create it himself. Music became his escape. As a young man, Jay-Z discovered that he could turn his experiences into words. He could take pain, struggle, ambition, and anger and transform them into rhymes. But becoming a rapper wasn't easy. The music industry didn't immediately open its doors for him. Record labels weren't lining up to sign him. Instead of waiting for somebody to believe in him, Jay-Z decided to believe in himself. In 1996, he and his friends founded Roc-A-Fella Records. That decision changed everything. Jay-Z released his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, in 1996. At first, it wasn't a massive commercial success. But something important happened. People began to recognize that this wasn't just another rapper. Jay-Z was a storyteller. He rapped about the streets, ambition, money, mistakes, relationships, and survival. His lyrics felt personal because they came from a life he had actually lived. Then came the breakthrough. Albums like Volume 2, Hard Knock Life turned Jay-Z into one of the biggest names in hip-hop. Songs such as Hard Knock Life introduced him to an even wider audience, and suddenly the kid from Brooklyn was becoming a superstar. But success didn't make the journey easy. Jay-Z faced controversy, legal problems, rivalries, and mistakes along the way. He was never presented as a perfect person, and that's part of what made his story so powerful. He was human. He made decisions he later had to live with. He experienced loss. He faced criticism. He had moments when his own past came back to challenge him. And yet, he kept moving. Jay-Z eventually became president of Def Jam Recordings, expanding his influence beyond music. But he understood something many artists learn too late: fame can disappear, but ownership can last. So he started building. Music became only one part of his world. He invested in businesses, fashion, entertainment, technology, and sports. He created companies and partnerships that transformed him from a rapper into an entrepreneur. His journey became bigger than selling records. He was building an empire. But perhaps the most interesting part of Jay-Z's story is that behind all the money and success, there was still a person trying to understand himself. His relationship with Beyoncé became one of the most famous partnerships in modern entertainment. Together, they became a cultural powerhouse, but their relationship also went through difficult moments. Jay-Z publicly acknowledged personal mistakes and the damage they caused. That part of his story matters. Because sometimes success isn't about pretending you never failed. Sometimes success is having the courage to admit that you did. Over the years, Jay-Z became more reflective about his life, his childhood, fatherhood, relationships, and the person he wanted to become. He became a father, and becoming a parent gave him another reason to look at his own life differently. The boy, who once grew up in the Marcy Projects, was now raising children of his own, trying to give them opportunities he never had. That is one of the most emotional parts of his journey. Jay-Z didn't simply escape his past. He carried it with him. Every struggle, every mistake, every rejection, and every difficult decision became part of the story. And eventually, his business success reached extraordinary heights. Jay-Z became one of the wealthiest and most influential entertainers in the world. But if you only look at the money, you miss the real story. The real story is about ownership. It's about a young man who realized that nobody was coming to save him. So he built his own door. Jay-Z's journey from Brooklyn to global icon is a reminder that sometimes your beginning doesn't determine your ending. He started with very little. But he had ambition. He had talent. And most importantly, he refused to stay trapped inside the expectations other people had for him. There's a line that runs through Jay-Z's entire story: turn your pain into power. The streets taught him survival. Music gave him a voice. Business gave him independence. Family gave him perspective. And time gave him wisdom. Jay-Z's legacy isn't simply about being one of the greatest rappers ever. It's about proving that you can come from somewhere the world expects you to escape from, and then build something so much bigger that your starting point becomes part of your legend. From the Marcy Projects to the biggest stages in the world, Shawn Carter's story is one of ambition, failure, growth, and redemption. And maybe that's why it continues to inspire people. Because Jay-Z's story doesn't say, "I was always destined to win." It says something much more powerful. I started with what I had, and I built from there. And sometimes, that's all you need. A dream, a voice, a little courage, and the decision to keep going when nobody else believes in you. That's the story of Jay-Z.